Okay, let's dive right in today. We're starting with a story that's,
Yeah.
well, it's incredibly personal, and it comes from Aleema Khan, who is the sister of Pakistan's former Prime Minister, Imran Khan. Just imagine this for a second. You're a mother, your son's all set for an international triathlon, and suddenly he's told he can't leave the country. Then he's abducted at gunpoint from his own home, right in front of his little girls,
It's hard to even comprehend.
and it doesn't stop there. The very next day, her other son, also taken. This is the kind of situation Aleema Khan described in a recent interview, and it's really just the starting point for what we're unpacking today about the political turmoil in Pakistan. So drawing directly from her account to look at how political opponents and even their families are being targeted, this alleged breakdown of democratic norms, and maybe surprisingly, how the Pakistani people are responding.
And I think what's really crucial here is seeing how these very intense personal stories aren't just isolated incidents. They actually illustrate a much bigger picture, a systemic challenge. They connect what's happening to individuals directly to these huge questions about justice, about freedom, that the whole country seems to be grappling with, especially now in this digital age we're all in.
So one of the core things Aleema Khan talks about is this pattern, this really chilling pattern of targeting families, not just the politicians themselves, but their whole families.
Yeah.
She sees it as a deliberate tactic, to break people's spirits through just immense personal pressure. Take her elder son, the one training for the triathlon. First, he gets stopped at the airport. He's on something called an exit control list.
Yeah.
Okay. Then just hours later, 7:30 p.m., men in plain clothes, she described them as gunmen, storm their house.
Plain clothes, that's always unsettling.
Exactly. Staff beaten, drivers beaten. They go straight to where her son is, with his daughters. One's only 1.5, the other is 6. His wife is there too.
Oh.
He's grabbed apparently at gunpoint. His wife's phone is confiscated. And these men, they were in and out in maybe 3 or 4 minutes, she said. Super fast.
Like a planned operation.
Seems like it. There's CCTV footage, apparently, of these armed men. And later, the police acknowledged the abduction, but then charged him in connection with those controversial May 9th, 2023 events.
Right, the protests that followed Imran Khan's first arrest.
Exactly. We'll circle back to her take on those events because it's quite different.
Okay. But this pattern, targeting family members, not just the main political figure, it really makes you ask about the intent behind it all. Is it just about silencing someone?
Or something more.
Or is it, a calculated move to inflict the maximum possible personal pain, using the justice system maybe as a weapon to just break their will? It feels aimed at the psychological level, not just the political.
And the pressure on her family didn't stop there. Her younger son, Shira, he was taken too.
The second son.
The second son. After a court hearing, police asked for an 8-day remand. And then, right outside their house, cars surrounded his vehicle, pulled him out, took him away. Just like that.
Right outside their home.
Yeah. And Aleema Khan herself, she says she's facing arrest warrants. She's named in 70 or 80 cases. 70 or 80. Including, get this, a murder charge.
A murder charge? For what?
Her stated crime, according to the police report she mentioned, was simply giving Imran Khan's message to the press. That's it. She found that just extraordinary.
That does seem disproportionate, to put it mildly. And this seems to extend even further out in the family, right? Didn't she mention a nephew as well?
Yes, absolutely. Her sister's son, Hassan Khan Yatsi, convicted, military court, for 10 years.
10 years, military court.
Yes. And crucially, she claims this happened without trial, no evidence. He's now undergoing what she called rigorous imprisonment.
Wow. So it's not just siblings and children, but the next generation too. It really does suggest, if her account is accurate, a very wide-ranging approach where maybe due process is being set aside.
Seems that way, according to her. Using the courts to target anyone seen as opposition, across the whole family. And all of this, of course, is tied to the man at the center of it all, Imran Khan. He's been in prison now for, over 2 years?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Aleema Khan describes his detention conditions as, systematic deprivation, complete solitary confinement. She said she hasn't been allowed to see him in 3 or 4 months.
Months, not even family visits.
Apparently not for her. And his other sisters, their weekly visits were canceled for about 2.5 weeks recently, too. It's not just family access either. She talked about basic human rights, like access to books.
He's a big reader, isn't he?
A voracious reader, she said. Could read 2 books in a day, loved history. But nope, access blocked. No TV, no newspapers. pretty much cut off from everything.
Total isolation.
Total isolation.
Yeah.
But what really jumps out from her account, despite all this, is his resilience. She said he absolutely refused offers to leave the country or just stay quiet before all this happened.
He wouldn't back down.
No. She quoted him asking, "Why would I leave my country? Like, what's my crime that I have to leave the country?" And his message from prison now, she shared it, is incredibly defiant.
What did he say?
Something like, "Your captain is still standing tall with his chest held high, and you must not panic. You must not lose courage under any circumstances." Apparently, even the lawyers and police staff are impressed. He never complains, never asks to be let out. It's quite something, isn't it? Makes you really wonder where that kind of inner strength comes from when you're facing that kind of pressure.
It really does. I mean, that image of a leader completely cut off, but still projecting that level of strength, it speaks volumes about his conviction, I suppose.
Yeah.
And that kind of resilience, especially under such deprivation, it turns him into a really powerful symbol, doesn't it? Way beyond the prison walls. It seems to almost empower the people around him.
And the legal situation he's in. It's not just complex. Aleema Khan suggests it's deliberately obstructed and dangerous. Well, okay, he did get bail recently in 8 cases from the Supreme Court. But interestingly, she said it was on technical grounds, not on the actual merit of the cases. Apparently, this was to avoid embarrassing the high court.
Ah, okay. A procedural thing.
Right. But he's still facing this huge 14-year conviction in the Al-Qadir Trust case. That's the alleged land corruption thing. And in that case, Aleema Khan points out, the judge kept delaying things for 4 months and now apparently won't even set a date for proceedings.
So stalling tactics, essentially.
That's what she implies. And add to that, these reported attempts on his life. She mentioned 3 murder attempts, bullet wounds, shrapnel, snipers showing up at a judicial complex, even some kind of helicopter incident.
Good grief, snipers.
That's what she reported. So you got this legal maze combined with serious security threats. It paints a pretty bleak picture.
Yeah, it creates this really stark contrast, doesn't it? Some legal paths offer a bit of relief, like the bail, but others seem completely blocked, almost deliberately. It definitely makes you question the impartiality of the whole system, especially when high-profile political cases are treated so differently, and the repeated threats. Well, that just highlights how incredibly tense and frankly dangerous the political climate must be.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit to the wider political scene, specifically the elections back in February 2024. Aleema Khan's description is fascinating. She calls it a silent revolution that was then basically stolen.
A silent revolution. What did she mean by that?
She claims that Imran Khan's party, PTI, actually swept the elections, winning, she says, more than 2/3 of the vote. And this was despite facing obstacles she called completely unprecedented.
Unprecedented how?
Well, she listed quite a few things. Their party symbol, the cricket bat, right? Crucial in a country where literacy can be a challenge that was taken away. Candidates were apparently abducted. Campaigning was virtually impossible, she said. Absolutely no campaigning, particularly in Punjab, a key province.
So how could people even vote for them?
Voters were given random symbols. Instead, she mentioned things like a cat, a dog, a wheelchair. On Election Day itself, the internet was shut down, and she claimed families were deliberately sent to polling stations miles away, sometimes 3 hours from their homes, to make it harder to vote.
Wow, that's a lot of obstacles. It really does underline this kind of fundamental clash, doesn't it? When people feel the normal democratic tools like elections or even the courts are compromised, where does the actual power lie?
Exactly.
Her account really brings that tension to the surface, the tension between the state, which some institutions might view in a certain way, perhaps even like a holdover from colonial times, versus the people as the real source of power.
And she described how people, especially in villages, went to incredible lengths because of this. Women drawing these random symbols on their hands so they wouldn't forget which one represented the PTI candidate.
Just to remember who to vote for.
Yeah. They did it because they really believed Imran Khan was their voice, she said. She called it an incredible, powerful, silent revolution, a real statement from the ground up.
But then she says it was stolen.
But then, she claims, the election was essentially stolen the next day, leading to what she calls an illegitimate government now in power, made up of, in her words, corrupt people who have no vote bank, no real popular support. And here's another striking detail she shared. She believes, based on her sources, that 60 to 70% of the actual police and military personnel voted for Imran Khan's party.
Really? 60 to 70%.
That's her claim. If that's even close to accurate, it suggests a huge disconnect between what certain institutions might be doing at the top and the feelings of the people who actually make up those institutions.
That is a fascinating point, a potential fault line right within the state apparatus itself.
And just quickly circling back to those May 9th, 2023 events, the ones used to justify so many arrests, Aleema Khan's perspective is starkly different from the official narrative. She frames them as a false flag operation.
The false flag.
Meaning she believes it was staged or provoked. She claimed peaceful protesters were actually shot dead by sniper rifles, but on the other side, where some government buildings were reportedly set on fire, she insists nobody died.
So she's saying the violence was primarily against the protesters and the property damage was used as an excuse.
Exactly. That this event then became the pretext, the justification for this massive crackdown and all the charges against political opponents like her sons and thousands of others.
Well, it's certainly a crucial counter-narrative to the official story. It really makes you think about how these key moments get framed, doesn't it? And how that framing can be used politically, shaping public understanding and trust.
Absolutely. Beyond these specific events, though, her interview also touched on what she sees as deeper systemic problems that are changing Pakistan's core institutions. She talked about judicial erosion.
Erosion of the judiciary.
She pointed specifically to something called the 26th Amendment, which she said was passed around October or November 2024. Now, normally amendments refine things, right? But she alleges this one basically converted the whole judiciary into a government department.
Stripped its independence, essentially.
That's her claim. Yes, stripped its independence. And the result, she argues, is what she called a mockery of the justice system. You have judges handing out 10-year sentences without absolutely no evidence, like her nephew's case, presumably.
If that's happening, I mean, the systematic dismantling of an independent judiciary, or even the perception of it, that's incredibly serious.
Hugely serious.
Because if the very mechanisms meant to uphold justice are seen as compromised, it doesn't just affect individual cases. It erodes public trust in the entire system of government, the long-term impact on stability, on rights. It's profound.
And what's really striking is her observation about tactics. She said these old tactics, tyranny, suppression, silencing people, tactics that might have worked 50, 60 years ago, they're just not working anymore.
Why not? What's changed?
Two things, mainly, she thinks. Social media and the youth. Pakistan has this incredibly young population, 60%, she said. That's like 110 million young people.
Wow, that's a huge demographic.
Massive. And they have too much access to information, she said. They're independent in their thought. And crucially, Aleema Khan stressed this, they refuse to accept this sort of tyranny. They just won't stand for it.
That really highlights a key dynamic of our times, doesn't it? The digital age has completely changed the game for authoritarian approaches. You just can't control the narrative like you used to.
Yeah.
Information finds a way out. And a generation that grew up online, they're just built differently, maybe less susceptible to old school propaganda or intimidation. It creates a whole new challenge for any system trying to clamp down on free expression.
And Aleema Khan doesn't see this as the end of the story. She actually called it the beginning of this, a process of change, a disruption that she believes will eventually force the system to be rebuilt from the ground up.
So she sees hope in the chaos.
It seems that way. She emphasized that even with all the alleged abuses, she mentioned women being abused, 100,000 houses invaded, even kids, 4- and 6-year-old children arrested just for distributing sweets after the election.
Children arrested for sweets.
That's what she claimed. But instead of creating fear, she says these actions have actually created a determination amongst people. They're not scared, they're resolved. She herself said she feels no fear, only pride in her sons for taking a stand.
That's quite a statement. Defiance, not fear.
Yeah. It really makes you think, what does that level of resilience, especially from the youth, mean for Pakistan's future? When the state's attempts to control and frighten seem to be backfiring, creating more resistance.
It suggests that the old levers of power might be losing their grip, maybe? Encountering a new kind of pushback, one that's fueled by information access and just a collective refusal to be silenced. It feels less like just politics and more like a deeper societal shift driven by demographics.
Okay, let's widen the lens now to the international side of things.
Right.
Because Aleema Khan also had some strong words for the global community.
Right.
One really alarming trend she pointed out is this brain drain. She cited figures suggesting 2.5 million educated people, doctors, teachers, IT specialists, have left Pakistan in just the last 2 years
2.5 million. That's a staggering number. Why are they leaving?
because they see no future there, she believes. And she connects this directly to the current government, which she alleges, being illegitimate and lacking public support, is selling national assets. Things like airports, the railway system, mineral resources. Selling them off cheap, she claims.
Selling assets cheap.
Yeah, she argued it's not real investment. It's more like selling off the family jewels because they don't feel accountable to the public.
That really brings up a tough question, doesn't it? For the rest of the world, in this interconnected age, what is the responsibility morally, practically, of international organizations, of other democracies, when they see reports of rights being dismantled, of governance breaking down within a country?
It's a huge question.
I mean, that brain drain alone. Losing 2.5 million educated people, that's an immense loss of human capital, a future potential for Pakistan. And the ripple effects go way beyond their borders.
And Aleema Khan made a direct plea about this. To the international community, particularly developed democracies, her message was blunt. Don't support dictatorships. Don't support illegitimate governments.
What else did she say?
She urged them to stop accepting what she called blundered money from corrupt officials. She even mentioned something she attributed to Bill Clinton, that if developed nations stopped accepting corrupt money, it would probably cut corruption in places like Pakistan by half.
That's a call for a fundamental rethink of how countries engage with nations in turmoil, isn't it?
Seems like it.
It challenges that purely, maybe transactional approach, suggesting that propping up regimes that lack legitimacy ultimately hurts the people, not just the political opposition, and has these massive long-term economic and social costs.
And this international dimension, it even touches Imran Khan's own kids, his sons. They're British Pakistani, right? They applied for visas to come visit their father in prison.
Could they visit?
Apparently, their applications were delayed, maybe even denied. And she said authorities actually threatened them with arrest if they set foot in the country.
Threaten the sons with arrest just for trying to visit their father.
That's her claim. She sees it as a sign of the government's panic, the lengths they'll go to prevent any kind of connection, any public show of solidarity, even from his family abroad.
It paints a picture of extreme, maybe paranoia or control.
Yeah. And Aleema Khan really wrapped up her perspective with this incredibly powerful statement, kind of summing up their whole struggle. She said, do we have a choice? We can either sit at home and do nothing, or we stand up for what's right. So it's not a choice, it's a duty.
That's a duty.
A duty. She said she feels immense pride in her children for being part of this, that her family isn't afraid, they're just determined to fight for freedom.
That's a really profound stance to take, especially given the immense personal risks, the systemic pressure she described. It reminds me, she mentioned earlier, that sometimes a system has to collapse to the ground to rebuild it.
Right.
It leaves you thinking, doesn't it? What does it actually take for people to reach that point, to be ready to rebuild something entirely new? And what are the implications for the rest of us globally when a major nation like Pakistan faces such deep internal disruption, this alleged brain drain of its best and brightest? It really makes you ponder the whole nature of change and the sacrifices involved.
Absolutely. This deep dive into Aleema Khan's perspective, it really throws a spotlight on the incredible courage, the determination of her family, and potentially many others in Pakistan, especially the young people, fighting for what they believe is right justice, the rule of law, even when the personal cost is so incredibly high. Hopefully this conversation is giving you, the listener, plenty to think about individual duty when faced with what's perceived as tyranny, and how these struggles for fundamental rights in one place can echo far beyond its own borders.